with the COVID, my high start has been very busy. And it's been great because it's kind of built in social distancing. And it's given me a lot of flexibility, and Bedwell's been open. By the way, Bedwell only is open for non-motorized planes, where before it had some RC pilots there. So it's even quieter and basically our private flying site. This is a picture of my Explorer that came from Rich, but it was the perfect picture for this talk, so I'll show this. Okay, so basically, because I've been using my high start so much, my first high start actually broke on Bedwell Park because of the thickets and the thorns and things. So abrasion is the number one thing. I'll get into that, but my current high start has lasted like 8 years, so it's been terrific. But it was a heavy duty 3-meter hose monster, and it finally broke, and now it's broken in like 3 places. So I thought it was time to get a new hose for it. So I'll start with saying, what is high starting? I mean, it's funny because when you do winches and now motors, it's kind of like a retro flying. But obviously, it uses a bungee or tubing, rubber tubing. And this is my brand new one. It just came in. So I have two 50-meter lengths, and you can see some fishing tackle that holds the two halves of together. Also, you know me and my marking of the stakes. I'm always really paranoid of some stake flying off or being lost and getting mowed or something. So I've been marking the stakes. Let's see, I have a hammer there. I even put orange on the hammer so I don't lose that. And then I have a dark bag. That's for keeping the sun off of it and for storage in the garage. But those are the basic parts: the bungee, the line, a parachute, which I'll talk about a little later, the stack and the stake, flag, and hammer. Just one stake. I've never had one pull out. Usually the ground is really hard, so you really knock it in. And the spool, I bought this from Hose Monster, actually Aerofoam, aerofoam.com, and I'll show their website. But they make really high quality stuff. Some people complain about the price, but for $100 or two, you get a lot of fun out of it, and a lot of independence too if the winches aren't coming out. The spool, as you can see, is nothing fancy, but it's really helpful because you just roll up the line. What I'm now doing is when I'm done flying, I carry the parachute end up to the stake, and then I roll it up from the parachute. The parachute's on the inside of the roll, and then the big rubber's at the end. And that way you're ready to stake it in and roll it out next time you fly. So I've mentioned Aerofoam several times. It's kind of funny. They're morphing themselves into like a UAV launch company. It's kind of exciting to see. So this is becoming just one part of their business. But bungee, it turns out bungees are pretty handy for launching these UAV planes. So seems like their business is having a bit of a renaissance. What I bought is a 3-meter, which is funny enough. I just thought I would use my 3-meter. I bought it for an Ole 2 and maybe a bubble dancer, and it worked great for my Ole 2. It worked great for my Bafico, which is a 100-inch Allegro plane, and it's working great for Daryl too. He's been flying all kinds of crazy stuff off of it. So it's 3 meters a good size, and funny enough, it works for 4 meters. And when I read the fine print on his website, he mentions the weight, and I think it goes up to 91 ounces. So it can, even a 3-meter can launch a pretty heavy thing. Let's see, or maybe that's the 4-meter one. It's 90 ounces, but whatever it is, 3-meter can easily handle a 40-ounce 4-meter Explorer, which I've been using. And I like to get it in 2-meter chunks, or 2 50-meter chunks. And I'll get into the reasons for that, but it also just gives you flexibility. If you break apart, you can kind of mix and match or you can shorten it if you want. And I'll get into some of the options there. This rubber latex comes in, or bungee, whatever you want to call it. It's black, and it's black to protect it from sun. And I just learned something interesting from Mark at Aerofoam. He was saying the more you use it, the better it lasts. So for some reason, I guess it has some kind of lubrication inside the rubber, and as you stretch it and use it, it gets better. And I think if you store it for a long time, it can get brittle. And he did mention abrasion's the worst thing, and that's probably what got my high start finally. It's pretty rough land, bedwell. It's not like Brigantino, so it does get scraped. In fact, my first high start was just demolished with it. And I know when I mentioned it's not cheap. Maybe Daryl will disagree with me, but he bought a high start from Amazon, and I wouldn't recommend it. You could just tell it doesn't stretch as well, and I have a feeling it wouldn't last as long. But it's certainly cheaper. It might be $10 instead of $100, but it just didn't seem like it was worth the savings. Okay, so here's my magic line. I've been using Mason line. Bright colored is kind of handy. And this is kind of the standard thing that comes from the Hose Monster high start. But I'm now learning from Randy that I need to get some mega mono or mega line, and it's a nylon monofilament line that you can only get in Germany, and I haven't even found the website to get it, but it's been used by F3B guys, and you can see it's pretty chunky, 1.2 millimeters. But if you can get if you find some F3B pilots, they have extra of this stuff because they kind of, I guess, stop using it after some point, or if it breaks or something like that. So I'm about to get a bunch of this stuff from Randy because he had some sitting around. So I'm kind of excited about that. The mono line, well, first of all, the Mason line doesn't stretch at all. So you have a very stretchy 100 meters of rubber, and then anything from 100 meters to, 100 feet, sorry. Yeah, it's 50 feet. Geez, I have to look back at the website. Well, I think it's 100 feet. I think they switch meters and feet, but it's 50 feet of the bungee cord, and then you might have up to 500 feet of line. But I've been bringing it down just because you walk so much. So I went to 500 feet to 250, and now I'm probably at 150, and it seems to work. My launches might not be quite as high, but it's worth it not to have to walk all over the field to retrieve lines. The parachute, of course, floats. Well, I'll get into the parachute in the next slide. So Mr. Kite is my favorite parachute source. You get one with a Hose Monster, but Mr. Kite's kind of famous, and he'll even throw in an extra parachute if you're nice to him. So he's a pretty cavalier parachute supplier. And like I said, Aerofoam supplies a parachute when you buy it. Now, of course, the parachute is handy for two reasons. One is it floats down with the wind, which cuts your walk by quite a bit. And the other thing is when you're in a big field, so I've seen a bright colored parachute's obviously an easier thing to find. So that's the parachute, and the heavy duty one is good because there's a ring on the top of the parachute that you actually hook your plane to. So the parachute's actually a part of the pole line, so you don't want a flaky one. You need a pole on the top of the parachute, otherwise it would fill up as it gets launched. So it's important to have a strong parachute with a ring on the top. Okay, now connectors. I'm learning all about connectors. That's what happens when your line breaks, your hose breaks. You start getting very creative on this stuff. And but you can see the little bullet thing on the right. That's the little plastic. Let me make this smaller.
Coupling. It's a coupling.
Yeah, can you guys see that, or do you have Okay, well, anyway, if you can see the plastic bullet-shaped thing on the right side, that's actually the piece you see up here with a little gold line on the left. You actually spit on it. First of all, you put the ring in a vice grip, but I'd recommend protecting it so it doesn't scratch the ring. You don't want to break the line by abrasion with the ring. But you put it in the vice grip on a sturdy table, and then you spit on the plastic plug and jam the rubber onto the plastic plug. And funny enough, it kind of like scritches up and goes on. It's a little tricky, but not too bad. And once it's on, it seems to stay on. I've only had it pop out once, but that's the connector. And you can see once you have these connectors, you can hook them together with tackle, or you can tie lines on it. And I gave a picture of the Daryl and I have been experimenting with various knots, but this is the only one that seems to work. And it's a little overkill, but it's 2 bowline. If you break a line and you're at the field and you don't have the connector hardware, you can tie 2 bowlines on each end of the line. And then I put a figure 8 knot on the end of the bowlines because they actually will slip through. So this is a field repair, which is literally on my old high start right now. But I'm excited to get my new rubber, and I now have some extra of these bullets and things and connectors, so I can do all kinds of crazy mixing and matching. Now let's see if I. So as far as launching, there's several options, and that's why I like this the 50-foot lines. Is normally you do a normal high start, which is probably 100 feet of rubber and maybe 200 feet of line. And it takes some walking. That's the one downside. It takes some walking, but it's not that much energy to hold it. And I have a picture here. This is my Explorer without a wing on it, but I wanted to show how I hold it. My index finger actually balances the wing, which is missing in this picture, but it's the way to keep it level. I use 3 fingers on the fuse and with the thumb, and then I hold on to the parachute, which is hooked onto the hook. And that seems to be a pretty sturdy thing. And the key thing that has been helpful for me is you kind of walk by leaning the plane on your body as you walk. Well, first of all, usually you land your plane at the end of where you launch it. So it's pretty far downwind. So you walk it with it over your shoulder or something, or wrap around your stomach as you walk down there. But when you get to your plane, you hook it onto the plane and you walk a little bit further. And if you walk, you can lean the plane on you, but eventually you need to hold the straight arm out and kind of stiff arm it, because that's when the pressure gets kind of hard, and you don't want to have to do it with a bent elbow. You'll run out of strength. But if you have a straight arm, you give it a nice straight launch. Pretty level is probably safest with a little bit of power, so that if the line breaks right at that moment, you're not heading straight up in the air with no power on it. So that's probably the reasonable launch. I've decided to stick with that launch, even though I've done some zip starts too. And Bob McGowan does this, and Randy does this one as well. It's a much shorter rubber, heavier duty rubber, and a much shorter walk. It's like, it's maybe the whole thing is maybe 100 feet or maybe 75, and you walk it really hard. That's where you learn about how to hold your arm straight. And it's a little scary too, because if you slip, your plane's gonna be going super fast right away. So that's kind of the aggressive thing. It doesn't launch as high too. So to me, it's worth the longer walk and the safety than it is to get the quick launch and not as much walking. But it is good for landing practice. So kind of the hot dogs do that. And also people can thermal off of, a 200-foot launch like it. Now the hybrid is the one that I may experiment with. I may double up on my rubber because I have 2 50-foot lengths, and I may kind of make it a half zip start, half high start, and I could probably add a little more pressure, hold it with a little more pressure. So that might be my my plan going forward. So I think that's the last slide. Yep, that's the last slide. So so that's the presentation, guys. And we'll talk to you in December in our next meeting.
Okay. Very good.
One thing, Kyle, I might mention, I don't know how you find the stake when you're done flying if the rubber breaks at the stake. So you might put something bright at the stake.
Yeah, that's that little. I'm really keen on that. I even have these. I forgot to mention I have these little flags too. So I put 2 flags and I have a little orange on the stake as well, and an orange on my hammer too. I lost one stake at Brigantino. I don't tell anyone else, but some lawnmower guy is going to be really pissed at me someday.
Wow. And another thing, I know you said you never had a stake pull out, but if you do, it'll be moving like a bat out of hell right towards you. So if you put a small draggy parachute on the stake itself, could be bright colored to identify where the stake is, would be a pretty good idea.
Yeah, although that would be good, but another safety thing though is by the time you're stretched, you're like 400 feet away. I don't think if your stake's going to find you that far. But
I don't know, man.
Because I know in the zip start, that's when crazy things happen like that. But in fact, though, they even have 2 chain. They have a stake and then 2 chains that stake in too. So it's a lot more serious. But
well, the idea of the fishing line is that if the rubber's never going to reach you, that's the idea. The fishing line is the thing that protects you from a rebound.
Plus it adds a little altitude when you release it too.
Yeah, but when you let go of it, it's like so far upfield.
I got to tell you, the first time I ever saw a radio control glider was up at Santa Teresa Park in the 60s before I was flying radio control. And I saw a guy launch a high start glider, and it was very impressive. He let go of the airplane. It stuffed into the ground. It was drugged for about 100 feet, and he came back carrying all the parts in his pocket. I have never forgotten that, and I am not a fan of high starts, but I do have some parachutes. If anybody's got a club like Kyle, I know you use yours for everybody. I've got a couple of Mr. Kite's parachutes if anybody needs one.
I'll buy one from you. I wouldn't mind getting one of those.
No, it's a club purchase. So the club pays for them, and it's you use it for the club. I'll be happy to set you up with one. And if anybody else needs one, and that's fine too. So anyway, high starts are my favorite thing because I've relived that guy's crash probably 100 times.
Yeah, we never have a crash on a winch launch, do we?
Oh, hell no.
Hey, Kyle, this is Chris. I did bungees and high starts for many years with the big, with the 4-meter gliders. And I can give you a tip on the best way to insert those little plugs, for the connectors at the end. What you do is spray them with hairspray. And the hairspray actually acts as a lubricant while you're pushing it in, which, as you know, if you've tried to do it, it takes some effort to get that in there. But then it dries, and then it actually holds even better.
Yeah, I've heard that too. I was just nervous. Well, Bob said to spit on it, and that seemed to work. But the hairspray, I was a little nervous that it might hurt the rubber. But
no,
I've never seen that.
No, I've done that. I did it for many years, and I never had one pull out. Put it that way.
Okay, well, my spit pulled off one time, so maybe I
use the hairspray also. I got that suggestion from the aerofoam people themselves. That's what they use.
Yep.
So I've been using that, and it's been working fine.
No. Why did you have hairspray?
Well,
It
I
was the
have
60s,
hairspray
man. What do you
because it doesn't use anymore.
Okay.
That was for his potato gun.
Hairspray is what you use for handlebars. That was what I was advised when your handlebars on your bicycle get loose.
That's right.
You shoot some hairspray at them and stick them back on.
And for handlebar mustaches too. Okay, guys.
Kyle, well, Kyle, I've got a quick question. I've watched Bob McGowan use his hose launcher or equivalent a lot. and he has a secondary ring, a secondary line where it doesn't go that far away. Are you familiar with that setup? Because he uses that exclusively, and I think I've seen Randy use that as well.
So it's like a retriever line, sort of?
Yeah, it only allows the line to go out maybe 75 meters, something like that. And it makes the walk half. I just didn't know if you're familiar with that technique or not.
That's a good idea. You know, I've actually flown on Bob's high start. So when he was using it, he was kind of using it just to do a quick landing thing. So it probably wasn't the full setup.
Yeah,
but that is interesting because the walk is, you know, at Brigantino, when you have a lot of line on it, you could be planted up on the guys playing soccer and you're walking down to the outhouse.
I tell you, another trick I do with my hose monster is I have a scale like you use for luggage. And because they say to get to somewhere between 12 and 18 pounds pull, and I'll put a cone on the ground at let's say the 14-pound spot, and just always walk to that cone. You don't use the scale every time, but that seems to help.
I used to do that. I had like a fish scale is another one you can do that with. But what I found is it's just not that big a deal, and you just walk till it feels pretty strong. It's not real consistent, but it.
Yeah, you can do it by paces too. That's how I.
Oh yeah. I used to do 120 paces on it.
Got it. I guess that changes if you put the elastic F5B line on it.
Yeah, a lot of things change, and it seems like it's a little stretchier after you've used it a bit, and also as it gets older.
You know, the club has a bunch. I have personally the club's F5J line, and I think some of it looks like it's been used. So if anybody needs some, and it's probably that diameter, there's different colors depending on the stretchiness. So there's not just one version of F5B. I'm F3B. There we go. I'll get it. Yeah. There's more than one type. There's about 5 or 6 types with the same diameter. So it's a science for these guys.
Yeah.
Kyle, you said that nylon doesn't stretch. I know from my boating career that nylon does stretch. Nylon you use for anchor line because you want some stretch there. Dacron is used for the running lines. It does not stretch.
Yeah.
So there is a little bit of stretch in nylon.
Yeah, my Mason line was what I said doesn't stretch. The mono nylon stretch is really nice, and that adds to the rubber.
If it's a braided nylon line, it doesn't stretch much, but the monofilament does stretch.
Yeah.